we speak this word of faith, life over the dry bones, life over your marriage, life over your health, to speak and declare the promises of God. We are declaring truth over that. Man, that's mighty. All right, here we are with another Everyone Should Know podcast. I'm going to take the lead on this one today. Is it okay with you, Dustin?
Approved.
All righty. And the reason is because I want to talk about something that we all face. We go through it. And that is very simply trials. We all have trials. You know, we don't say, oh, yeah, I remember 20 years ago, I went through one. Nobody's saying that. If you're saying that, you don't understand the concept of trials. Trials are in our lives. You're either coming out of one, you're in one, or you're getting ready to go into one. Because they coexist with blessing. They coexist with good times, right? It's not like a trial doesn't have to be there's mega trials, right? Tribulations, but we all go through. And I know that you and Jackie, but you as because of what you're going through, you're in one, and it's with you. Tell everybody just a little bit, just give a breakdown, and then I want to dissect it a little bit. But what's your current trial?
Yeah, sure. We're probably we've been going through a pretty substantial financial turnover for the past couple years, maybe the past year and some change. Just for a variety of different reasons. Some out of our control, some within our control. But we, kind of got to a place where we realized we had to do the hard thing and start making hard decisions if we want to get back on track. And, so we, at the time of recording this anyway, I don't know when exactly this episode will come out, but the time of recording this, it was about 14, 15 months ago or so. We had to start renting our house out and move into an RV on my parents' land, and just start the process of gutting everything and starting to look at, how do we get back on track and recover from some of these financial things that were just starting to plague us. Some were medical debts, some were credit cards, whatever, just things that added up over time.
School loans,
yeah, just stuff.
Dude, you also had a baby.
Yeah, and we had a baby 2.5 or 2 years, a little over 2 years ago.
Okay.
And
so
yeah,
back in the RV at your folks, the recreational vehicle, living large, back on your folks' property. I know you're a hard worker. I know Jackie is a hard worker, both super talented. And then this last job that you had came out of the blue with they had to let people go. Is that right?
Yep. They did some leadership layoffs, and I was part of that.
And that was how long ago?
Let's see, 5 weeks.
5 weeks ago. And that's kind of, the theme of trials is that you don't get a warning. Hey, in 2 months, this is going to happen. This came out of the blue, right?
Yeah. I don't even know if I'd want a warning. Might be harder.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe it's better that you don't get one. But needless to say, it comes out of the blue. And then, but you also have another job that you've done kind of forever. in your coaching, in your equipping other entrepreneurs, business people. Give me the Reader's Digest again. So
Yeah, so I've been working in marketing for I don't know, how old am I? Maybe 15 years now or so. And then for about 7 years, I was running my own marketing agency. And then that was kind of part of the financial breakdown was things going upside down with that and the repercussions that happened personally because of that. And then, but you know, throughout that, the nice thing about marketing and consulting is you can kind of always pick up a client here or two on the side, and it's helpful. So now I'm back in the saddle doing that full time again, but you know, it's a ramp up process, and it's fresh from coming off of the layoff. And so there's, you know, and after a little over a year of making really good progress recovering financially, and then you kind of get, you know,
yep.
and it's happened a couple of times now. Like we're on a good path. It's feeling like, okay, all right, things are settling down, feeling a little more secure. We're on the right path, just about out of it. And then boom.
Well, that's kind of the nature of trials. I happen to think that's where you belong. Not in trial, not in financial distress, but doing your thing. I know how good you are at it. I think it fits you and Jackie's personality. So I know you just did a conference. Where was it, anyways?
I was in Las Vegas, Sin City.
Sin City.
Who knew my blessings would come from Sin City?
So yeah, well, that's the thing. So Dustin's having hardship financially, so his decision was to go to Vegas. So I know, and you're going to get, I know, new clients. I know you had some good meets there. I know you were speaking at one of the conferences or sessions and stuff like that. If somebody ever did want to get a hold of you, and I told you, I know you'd never do this, but I'm going to do it because I believe in you guys. Just how would they do that and say, you know what, I want to know more about what you do on that area of your work, and then we'll get off of this and get back in the how do they get a hold of you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. That's maybe the easiest path to get a quick rundown. And then other way would be my website is machinagrowth.com, MACHINA growth.com, and that'll get you what you need.
All right. That's awesome. Sorry to put the spotlight on you right there, but just for anybody who's listening, it happens to all of us. We go through things in life that test our faith. There's a reason there's all those idioms of, you know, I'm at the end of my rope, I'm fed up, I'm about to snap, I can't take it anymore, on my last leg, at my wit's end. There's a reason those have been created, because those are, you know, a big part of the human experience, is that we go through things that test us, just our character, our values, our perseverance, our levels of hope, our faith, and especially there may be somebody listening and that you feel like you're at, you know, stick a fork in me, I'm done. And it may be because of a job. It could be your parenting and you don't know how to handle these kids. Boarding schools are like high on your priority list right now. Whatever, maybe a marriage, and you're in a marriage or some other significant relationship, and there's just more and more distance, more and more negativity. And it's like, what do? I don't know what to do. As we know, life can get very, very hard. And where we panic, where we're in fear, right? I mean, this can happen to all of us, every one of us. And if you have this, and this is really key, if you have this notion that the spiritual life is a life exempt from these things. Like if I get really close to God, the closer I get to God, the less problems or trials I'll have. That's not biblical. That's not true at all. Right?
I mean, yeah, you need evidence. Look at Jesus's life and all of the apostles.
All of the apostles. Yeah. Look, I think there was when I was young in the ministry, the prosperity message was at its height. Now I think it's waned because most people see the gross holes in that teaching, the health and wellness doctrine that God just wants you to be healthy and wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, if you're facing sickness or if you're facing high levels of distress or whatever, then you're not doing faith right.
Right.
That's cruel. I think that's a very cruel teaching. It really shames people and it makes them run.
It does. And I mean, I know plenty of people who operate in a sometimes it's just the way you're raised too. Like you have this, we all have it to an extent, but this extreme desire to please people. And I think that sometimes that comes off to we all want to please God, but it's an operating mode for some people to be like doing it the right way and not getting in trouble, not doing the wrong things. And that like prosperity gospel just makes you, it puts you in a place of shame constantly if you're not just batting 1,000 in life at all times, but really nobody is. So it pushes people away from God because they're, that like, oh, I must be doing something wrong. And then it makes them question like, oh, have I had faith this whole time? It makes them question far deeper than just like, am I praying wrong about money or something,
Have you had times like that?
I'm sure.
I know you, your natural bentness is to be positive and to hustle and work and try to do things right and live the right kind of life and do marriage right and do this right and do parenting right. And Judah is too young to have given you any problems yet, but those days are coming.
Don't tell me that because I feel it's been 2 years of problems. No, I'm just kidding. No. He's the best kid, but he's 2. Yeah.
But that pressure to feel like, dang, what's the matter, and not have an answer for it and not know necessarily, what do I do about this, and to go, this doesn't fit the kind of person that I am and that I want to be or that I ought to be or should be or whatever. And then to have to struggle with that, right? That's a very real struggle.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a passage where the Apostle Paul is talking to the church in Corinth, and he mentions that when we were in Asia, the troubles that they faced nearly brought him to death. It was more than they could handle. He said, we thought we might have to serve out our death sentence in Asia. And, but at the end, he says this, and we realized that we couldn't rely on ourselves. We're in a position where we have to rely on God, who possesses the power. We have to rely on God. And so no one is exempt from trials. If somebody's listening today, no one is exempt for trials. King David, a central character in the Old Testament, famously, and you mentioned this, that throughout the Bible we hear, whether it was Jesus or the apostles, back to David, a life just chock full of trials. There's a passage in Psalm 143 where he's saying, my enemy has chased me. He's knocked me to the ground. I'm living in darkness like those who are in a grave. I've lost hope. I'm paralyzed with fear. Come quickly, God. My depression is deepening, right? Don't turn away from me. I may die. I mean, that's like, he's to us, That's what I always want to remind people of. To us, when we read something like Psalms and we hear something like that, these cries of King David, he's not writing something that he thinks is going to be profound for somebody to read 3,000 years later. As we're talking about it on a podcast, that's his journal.
Yeah.
That's what he's feeling. It's not like, oh, how do I make this sound poetic? I'm paralyzed with fear. Like, that's a good word to use. No, he's crying out. He's saying, this is my thing. And so,
yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit today, and let's just kind of bounce things off of each other, about what do we do when we inevitably find ourselves in such a situation. There are things that we can change about our situations. We can stop certain patterns. We can, work on things, get a new job, get whatever, put our feelers out there. But there's certain things you cannot change. I mean, you take sickness. It comes your way. It's not like you can, do something about cancer other than treatments and submit yourself to, the care of physicians. But what can we do? What steps can we take when we are in the midst of something like David, where I feel paralyzed with fear? I'm not okay. I'm in a level of distress that is highly uncomfortable. I'm not sure what to do. What can I do? And there's a couple of things that I think are modeled very well, not only from David's life, but the teachings of Christ, the teachings of Paul, of what we can do. So let's start there. And one of the first things I see with David, and I see it in scriptures, I see how Jesus teaches us, I see it, Prophet Isaiah, what he talks about, is that we can turn our prayers and our posture towards, all right, I'm going to get desperate about this. I'm going to get very real and earnest about this. I'm not going to candy coat this thing. I'm going to get very real with God, and I'm going to get real with maybe my pastor or my therapist or especially got a good friend. I'm going to get very real and say, no, I'm not okay. And here's why. Here's what's going on in my life. I don't think real change ever happens without truth.
Yeah, it's almost like just like saying it out loud starts a process of setting you free. And like similarly to like confession, where just like you can know it in your own head and you can feel remorse and you can say it to God, but sometimes you just need to say it to another person. And I know, like, for me, what was interesting, and me, I'm slow to that. I am very slow to telling people my problems because I have pride in self-sufficiency, and I believe I'm capable, and so I try to just do things on my own and not, quote unquote, bother people. But as soon as
I know that.
well, it's because you try to pull it out of me every week. No matter what, I just say I'm fine. But I know that once I started, because there's a certain point, when Jackie and I were like moving out of our house and stuff, there's a certain point you got to tell people like, oh, we're moving out of our house. And then, you can lie about it. But at a certain point I was like, well, I'm just going to tell people what's happening. And I don't know, like, what's the worst that can happen? But I found the more I started telling close friends what was happening, the more I was getting, I thought I would feel embarrassed, honestly. Because it does feel a little embarrassing, but what I received with probably 100% of the time was compassion and empathy, and people saying we're going through a lot of that right now too, or we just got through that, or like, I know, I have a friend who is going through the exact same thing. And so getting this this feeling of isolation when you don't tell anyone, and you feel like you start thinking you're the only one going through it, and you're the only one that messes up, and you're the only one who has a hard life. You start realizing that there's other people going through it. You don't feel so alone about it anymore. You feel like you feel a greater sense of hope, because I guess misery loves company, but misery also needs company.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, you're not all locked up inside, and which then things get worse. I had he's a He's a good friend to this day. But when I met this guy, I'll call him John. He was in, you talk about trials, and they were self-inflicted. His wife had called me and told me and wanted me to talk to him. I was pastoring the church, and they were in our congregation, and I didn't know him. I mean, I knew who he was. I didn't know him though. Anyways, his wife called and said, "I need you to talk to John." I go, "Well, not my practice to, if John wants to talk, I'd be happy to, but John needs to call me and tell me that." She goes, "Well, I want you to know we're about to divorce." I go, "I'm so sorry." Yeah, I just, had caught him. He'd been having an affair for a long time, and he got caught. But he's also misappropriated and embezzled a lot of money from his job, and he's not only gotten fired, but he's going to be prosecuted. And he's hooked on cocaine.
A lot of things.
Oh gosh, it was just a mess, just a hot mess, and yeah, just bad. And so he came in. He set an appointment to talk to me. I go, "All right, hey John, how you doing?" He goes, "Pretty good." "Pretty good. How about you?" I go, "Oh, I'm fine, thanks." And then it's small talk for a couple minutes, and then I'm trying to press him again, saying, "Hey, what's going on, man?" "Oh, not much. Just thought I'd swing by, say hey, how things are going on in the church and stuff like that." And "Oh, yeah, I understand there's some things that need attention." And he goes, "Just stuff." And I'm like, "I know. You don't know that I know, but I know." And so I ended up telling him, I said, "Look, John, let's not waste each other's time. Man, I'm here for you. I'll walk with you through this. I got off the phone with your wife, a couple days ago. I know about some stuff that's going on in your life, and you need to make a decision right now. I'm not a savior. I can't magically do something about what you're going through, but I'll walk with you, but only on one condition, and that's if you're honest. Because if you're not honest, man, you just get ready for a lot of more crap coming your way." So I said, "Look, I need to take off. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. And when I do, just either if you're here, then let's get real. And if you're not interested in that, then I'll see you later. You're welcome to come to church, stuff like that. But don't feel bad. I'll see you later. But if you want to, stay here. We'll get real." Anyways, I came back. He was there, and he unloaded. He unloaded about things his wife didn't even know about. And he just let it all out and told me things that he felt so ashamed of. And because at a core, he was a good guy, he just got caught up in stupid behaviors and things. And just, it's a downward spiral when it's all tucked inside of you and nobody knows, and all of that. Anyway, fast forward 2 years later, he's a leader in our church. He had done so much good work at reconciling things and making it right. But it started out with, okay, I need to be honest with somebody. I need to, and it may not be embezzlement or that you've done anything wrong. Maybe it's just like David said, hey, he said, "God, I'm losing all hope. I'm paralyzed with fear, Lord. I need to tell you honestly, I need you, God." And that is so important. Dustin, I don't think enough of us are just that honest with him. We think about things like, I need God right now. I really need God to show up. I need God to give me direction. But we don't tell him, "Lord, I'm not okay. God, my heart is scared," or "God, I'm nervous about, and I need you to come to talk, that our ears hear our mouth say that to him." That's relationship.
Yeah. And similarly to that conversation that guy had with you, God already knows. And so there's no hiding it.
No.
I think we can sometimes use that as an excuse to not say anything too, right? Like, oh, God already knows, I don't need to rant to him. He already knows. But it's like we were talking about on a previous podcast about Adam and Eve in the garden, and God saying, where are you?
Yeah.
He knows, but he needs us to say it.
Yeah.
And because it's for us.
Yeah. Yeah. When God asks questions, he's not seeking information. He's already got it. He wants us to answer the question. Yeah, 100%. So, all right, that's one. We got to get honest. Get honest with somebody. Be real. Invite people into that. I like what you said. They're able to uh, um, share their stories too, and you feel like, okay, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
But then also our posture towards God. Get honest with God, and then another thing that I take this from David. David, in the midst of that psalm where he's saying, I'm a wreck, I'm about to die, I'm paralyzed with fear, God, my enemies are chasing me down. Right in the middle of that, he also says, I remember the days of old, and I ponder all of your great works, and I think about the things that you have done, and I lift my hands to you in prayer. And so there's this choice that he makes that is so important for us to say, I'm not going to just rehearse the problem right now in my mind. I'm not going to just meditate on what's wrong, commiserate with other people. I'm not going to just ponder what am I going to do and how bad this is, and think about the 50 different ways it can even get worse. I'm going to do something that may feel phony, but I'm going to do it because of the virtue of it, and it's speaking faith. I'm going to rehearse the promises of God. I'm going to rehearse the word of God that increases my faith, as opposed to rehearsing the promise or problem that just decreases it. Not deny the problem, not deny the reality. Again, David didn't deny it, but he didn't just camp out there. He said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ponder in my heart the great works that I know you've done in the past. I'm going to remember what you've done. Right?
Yes.
That's key. It's very easy to go. It takes no effort, no discipline to just go into the darkness.
Yeah, that's where we naturally gravitate to.
That's what we naturally gravitate to. If you read, I can't remember which one it is right now, 142, maybe. So many of his Psalms, he's like, I remember when I used to go to the house of the Lord with dancing, and then when he talks to himself, he says, why so downcast, O my soul? Put your hope in God. I shall yet praise him. He's speaking faith. Isn't that what faith is? Faith is the evidence of things, or the substance of things hoped for. It's the evidence of things not seen. We speak this word of faith, this rhema, this dabar, this word that we send out. It's so important to speak it and not just think, but to speak life over the dry bones, life over your marriage, life over your health, life over your financial situation, to speak and declare the promises of God. And it's creative, it's powerful, and at the very least, our souls are encouraged because we're hearing we're not just pondering the ugliness or the darkness or the despair. We are declaring truth over that. Man, that's mighty.
Yeah. One of my favorite Psalms, 57. 57:7. My heart is steadfast, O God. My heart is steadfast. I will sing and make music. I like that, and that's just a couple of verses after him talking about being in the mouth of a lion or something.
There you go.
And I love just the declaration of worship, of worship in the middle of it all. Because he doesn't change, and like you were saying, declaring the promises of God is so uplifting. My warning or observation I've seen with that in me and with other people is declaring what you would prefer to be his promises over your situation. And by that I mean, if it's not an actual promise in scripture, we got to be careful, because that's when you start trying to manifest things, or say like, okay, like I'm I'm declaring in God's name, this will, I'll be out of this in 2 weeks. And you start trying to like amp yourself up with false hope, and then it doesn't come true. And then you start blaming God for things.
Very important.
But
Great.
a promise of God is something you go find it in Scripture. The word of God does not return without completing its work. And so when we are declaring things that are true, our one, we know because we're reading it. Two, I think our heart connects to that differently than just like a hope. And I think something I think about a lot in different trials or scenarios is like sometimes that sickness does take you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that problem doesn't go away for a very long time. It might not go away or be resolved, but a promise of God will always stand. And so we can take a lot of heart and hope in, simple things like when we die, we'll be united with Christ. What a beautiful ending. It doesn't mean there's not sadness in the middle of that, or if that's what ends up happening, but there's a lot of hope to be found in the how the story really ends. What the actual next thing is after this life, and there's so much hope that can be found in the middle of immense pain or troubles. And at least for me, it helps my brain to take it, like it brings gratitude out of me of like all of this is real and I feel it, but it's not the end. It's not the biggest thing. The hope is far greater than my problems.
Yeah. The ultimate healing is being in his presence. If we passed away, we're going to be in his presence. We're living forever. But I think the idea of what I hear you saying too is remind yourself that this earth, the trials that we face are fleeting. These things are, he says, be of good cheer. I've overcome this world. In this world, you're going to have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I've overcome it. There's so much more. There's eternity with me. This is passing, but it's still very real when we're in it. It's a very real. Yeah. So one other thing we want to make sure we don't do is just try to rescue ourselves and try to find quick fixes, run to things. David said, he cried out for God to rescue him. And he said, I run to you to hide me. So it's like we can run to wrong things. You're going to run to a bad relationship that you shouldn't be in. You can run to self-medication, drugs or alcohol or food. You can run to distracting yourself with busyness. But he's praying, no, I'm going to run to you. I'm going to run to you. And I really like what you were talking about with not manufacturing these promises that are not in Scripture, but there are certain ones that are like, you said you will never leave me or never forsake me, right? And so I'm going to declare that over my life. I am the son of God. I'm a child of God. I am Abba. Your spirit dwells inside, to tell ourselves these truths. And another thing that David did that I think is so good was that he said, teach me while I'm in this problem, because I know I can do wrong. I don't want to make bad choices. Teach me to do your will. Teach me, what's the steps I should be taking in here? Teach me to do your will. And because I know your spirit is going to lead me with firm footing. And when we're messy on the inside, the last thing we want to do is make bad choices that make it even more slippery, that we're even falling deeper. And so it's like, okay, Lord, help me to hear your voice. Help me to learn your ways. Help me to do wise decisions right now. Let me get good counsel. Because if I think it's bad now, it's like the guy I was talking to. You think it's bad now? Stay in this and keep making choices like you're making, and you're going to find he could have been in prison. He could have been wherever else. It can get worse. And so run to God. Let's look to God for our rescue of our soul. The circumstances may or may not change. I prayed for a marriage for years that did not change. It did not, what I wanted to happen did not happen. And so it doesn't always happen like that. Well, no matter how much you try to speak or declare or try to do, but you change. So that old powerful teaching of sometimes God speaks and he calms the storm, like we see Jesus do, peace be still. And other times he just gets in the boat with us and rides it out. And we don't know what's going to happen. But we do know that he is with us, and all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So that that's a promise. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to stay close to you. All right. So there's one last thing that, and it's a game changer, but it not only for the trial that you may be in, is it a game changer, but if we adopt this, it changes the way you do life for the rest of your life. David wasn't the only one who prayed this kind of prayer. You see it in Paul too. But David, in the midst of all that same psalm where he's, telling God about how, bad it is, and it really was. He wasn't just whining. He was being chased. We don't know if he was being chased by Absalom, his son at that time, or if it was Saul. But his life was on the line. His life was on the line. And then he says, as he closes that prayer, he says, I'm going to run to you, teach me, give me firm footing. He goes, for the glory of your name, preserve my life. Because of your faithfulness, God, bring me out of this distress. He's like, it's not, get me out of this so I look good again. Just so life is better, or, people can say, look at what he did, or look at how I am now, look at this, you thought you had me, he says it's for the glory of your name, not for my glory, not for my reputation to be great, but for your glory, God, for yours. Save me, bring me out of this distress that I'm in, turn this around so people will see your amazing power. That's and when we can have that paradigm, it will serve us in our relationship with God, our relationship with money, our relationship with fame, our relationship with power, our relationship with anything. Put everything in its proper place, because it's like when our heart is really, no, Lord, for your glory, do this, so people will see what you have done. They're going to see your power. I learned this, and I've been learning this all my life, but I learned this when I came to God as a young man, when I was incarcerated, and my life was a mess. And it was a mess before I got locked up, obviously. That's why I got locked up, but it was still a mess when I was locked up. I was a mess. And the long story short, I've shared it before on a different podcast, but God saved me, and he transformed me. He transformed me. It wasn't just behavior modification. I didn't just, stop doing bad things and start doing good things. He changed me from the inside out. That's the way he wants to change people. And when I, for the next few years after I was released, and family and some friends, mostly family, and aunts or uncles and whoever, they would always come to me with those encouraging words about, Mark, we're so proud of you. Look at what you've done. You've really turned it around. You really did good. Look at you now, and they were just meaning, and I received it. They were just being encouraging and congratulatory on just, affirming and all of that. But I would tell them, and I wasn't trying to be super hyper spiritual. I'm like, I can't take the credit for this. He changed me. He transformed me. I'm a different person because of what he has done for me. And so He gets all the glory. Man, I know me. I know who I am. This was him. And sure, I needed to say yes to certain things and made some better choices, but it was God. And that's what Paul, also said. He goes, we're going to get knocked down by trials. We're not going to be destroyed. We're going to be perplexed, but we're not going to go into despair. Through our suffering, we're going to identify with Christ in a more powerful way than ever before. But Jesus will also be seen through the victory that we have. And there's both. There's both. There, fellowship being with his suffering, going through some stuff that's difficult, Christ being formed in us, we being fashioned into the image of Christ, whether it's you in a situation like you're in where you're having to rely and trust and death to certain things in life, so that there can be a new experience of Christ, a new showcasing of what God is doing and has done, and all of that we don't get resurrection without a crucifixion. There has to be a dying for there to be new life to come. Unless a kernel of wheat fall into the ground and die, it just stays a seed. But once it dies, then it breaks open, then the new life comes, rushing out. And that's what happens in small trials, and that's what happens in big ones too. And it's not easy, but we can trust him because he said, I got you. You're my son. You're my daughter. I got you. Just do what I say. Learn to trust me. Don't make me shout. Listen for my whispers. I'll get you through this. We don't like them, but if we ultimately see that our goals are different. Our goals are to have a retirement account or to, have a home or to have this. His goal is to fashion us into the image of his son. He knows all the other stuff can be taken care of. And so when we remember his goals could be completely different than mine, then I submit to that. I know you're just fashioning me. I'm going to be okay. Sometimes we want to say, can you not fashion so much?
Yeah, can you give me a break in the middle or something, or split this up into 4 payments?
Can you allow me to be tempted with wealth?
Yeah, teach me about money and power. Yeah, it is funny though. I mean, I do believe that God never wastes a good crisis, and I think if we're aware of what you were just talking about, that he's doing a good work during those things to fashion us more like his son. You can see them sometimes. Like I know, during this season for me, I've had to learn how to say yes to help, which is something I've been always bad at. And, and not in a fake way where I'm going to pay it back right away, in a way where I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't pay you back, and receive a true gift from somebody and feel what that feels like, allow them to have that blessing of giving as well.
Good for you, Dustin.
Yeah. So it's, and I mean, there's stuff like obviously living essentially with my parents for a while with Judah. I mean, he's gotten such a gift of time with them and them with him and us with them and them with us, that, I mean, we probably packed in more time in a year than we would have for the next 10,
what a treat for with your folks too.
Oh yeah. We were able to go stay with Jackie's family for about 6 weeks in the summer too. Some stuff like that we wouldn't normally have opportunities to do, and so there's all kinds of blessings and gifts that God will give us in the process even if we don't realize it. But when we realize it, it helps us to kind of persist through a little bit better, and not be so down about it.
Good. That's really good. That's really good. Yeah, I didn't think about that. You got time with Jackie's parents and yours and Judah in these formative years where things are being scripted on his little heart, surrounded by love and care from people. And this is just a step in the journey that is, Dustin and Jackie's life.
Yeah.
But great attitude. I do. That's why I love you guys. One of the reasons I love you guys so much, though, is because I see such maturity that goes beyond your age, of handling this stuff. So just take that. It's true. You're evidencing some things, and very, very good, very impressive.
Don't
Now,
worry, we whine plenty.
yeah. Speaking of visiting and having time on your hands, there's some others of us who would like to see Judah too. Just letting you know.
Okay, maybe September we'll be making our way out there.
Okay, anybody listening? It's just barely February, and he says September. Like,
Hey, receive it, would you?
yeah, okay.
My life is
Hey.
complicated. I'm just kidding.
That's our subject for today. And I want to encourage anybody that's listening to, if you have prayer needs or whatever, things that you want to make us aware of.
Prayer at everyonemovement.com.
Okay, awesome. So do that. We'd love to be praying for you and hear what God's doing in your life and your stories. We are able to do another ministry gift to a mom and her daughter who she's almost 2 years ago, I think, were homeless in dire straits. And we have watched them not only become gainfully employed, but find a place. And then just recently hit some hard times again, and no fault of their own. No fault of their own. It's just, we've had wildfires over here. We've had unscrupulous tenants raise rents, on innocent families and hardworking families. And this mom and daughter are one of them. But because of generosity of those giving to everyone, we were able to step in and provide substantially for them. Groceries and other expenses that they had, and do that to somebody who just really needed some help right there. So thank you guys for being a part of that. Every bit goes to it. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. Cool. Well, that's all I got. I mean, I guess now that I say that, the only other thing is, if you have prayer requests, please do send it to prayer at everyonemovement.com. Part of our commitment here is to be transparent and open with our humanity. And so don't be afraid to ask for prayers or feel like we're going to judge you or something. We're human too. So, don't be afraid to share anything you feel like you need prayer for. We'll of course keep it between us, but we'll pray for you, and we're not here to judge you. We're here to walk with you.
Amen.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening. And if you're enjoying these podcasts and you have a specific topic you would like Mark and I to talk through, just go to, you can email us, and that's the easiest way to get it to us. And we'll sift through those, but just go to podcast at everyonemovement.com and send us an email with some topic ideas, and we'll be happy to consider them. And who knows, maybe the next one we'll talk about that.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Much love.
Thanks for listening to Everyone Should Know. At Everyone, we believe what the Bible says in Genesis 1, that God created humanity in his image and likeness, which means we are all Imago Dei, image bearers of God. Our mission as a nonprofit organization is to see everyone valued, reached, encouraged, and integrated into community, because we believe everyone matters. To learn more about how we're working to accomplish that mission and to join the movement, go to everyonemovement.com. That's everyonemovement.com.